have you ever watched one of these videos where people count their belongings and have like less than 100 things? I certainly have watched a lot of these videos and I think they are very fascinating. But do you actually have to count your items as a minimalist, or is it even like something you shouldn't do? I am going to talk about this in this video. So if you're new here, my name is Leah. I'm uploading videos twice a week about minimalism and sustainable living. And if you like these topics and want to see future videos, please subscribe to my channel. And now let's get started. A lot of minimalists do count their possessions, and I think most of the minimalists don't. Do you have to count your possessions if you're a minimalist? I think if you want. I really don't think you can only be a minimalist if you know how many items you own. But I also think it could be very interesting counting your items. I have counted my clothes, for example. And I thought it was very, very interesting counting the items of clothing I own and seeing how it varies and how it's decreasing actually over time. Because I think when I started counting my clothes, I had about 50 items of clothing, and that was maybe 4 years ago. And now, depending on how you count, it's 12 or 20 or something in between. It helps you keeping track, and it helps you really like understanding what you need. But it is really not necessary. Because minimalism is not about any of these things. Minimalism is not about counting your items. Minimalism is not about any of these rules. Minimalism is about having more time, more creativity, more passion, more whatever you want, and less clutter, less things you don't want to have in your life. And I mean, the next interesting thing is it would be interesting to compare yourself. Maybe to compare yourself to somebody who has a similar lifestyle, or to compare your belongings to somebody you think has an even better minimalist lifestyle. If you want to become closer to their lifestyle, it would be a thing you could do, counting your items and seeing how much more you have or something like that. But there's a huge problem with that, because it is really, really hard, and it really often does not make any sense to compare yourself to anybody else. The first thing that is like a little bit stupid about that is that everybody kind of counts different. And the other thing is that your life is different from anybody else's life. So let's get into that, like counting differently, because I've seen people counting all of their belongings and saying, I own less than 100 items, but not counting their clothes, not counting anything of their household, and not counting like their toothbrush and shampoo and conditioner. And I don't think that person didn't own these things. At least she was had clothes on, and she didn't count these, and she didn't mention any clothes. So I wouldn't count that way. Another thing I read in a blog post was that a person also, I think she said she had less than 100 things, but she didn't count her books. She said she had one library. So she would count like all of her books. I think it wasn't like that many, or it was like a normal amount for people who like books, which was, I think, around 100 or 200. And she said she counts it as like one item because she has one library. I mean, I don't know if these were jokes. I don't know. But if you say you have less than 100 items and then don't count things that other people are counting, you can't compare it. And the same goes with, are you counting underwear? Are you counting one sock as one thing, or two socks as one thing? And I think it's still very fascinating watching these videos of people that own little things. For me, then it's not really about the number, and I'm more like disappointed if somebody says he owns 100 things and then it's 200 because he doesn't count half of it. But I also think it's okay, for example, to not like count the charger of your laptop, because the charger itself is not an item. You wouldn't have it if you didn't have the laptop, and you can't have the laptop without the charger, and the charger cannot double up as anything else. So I think it would be okay to like count the charger to the laptop as like one item. But again, that is not okay anymore. Maybe if you have a charger that works for your phone, for your laptop, and for another device you have, for your camera, for example. There's no end to that, and I don't think we should even make rules on how to count your items, because it's just everybody should do it how he or she wants to, or not at all. And the next thing is that a lot of these people who have very little possessions are digital nomads. So they travel the world with a backpack, for example. And while they travel the world, of course, they do not own an apartment. They do not own all that kitchen stuff. They do not own a car. They do not own whatever kind of furniture we have in our apartments. But they're still using that because they're using it from somebody else where they rent it. And I think that's perfectly fine, and I think that's a good way to go for a lot of things. We shouldn't own it if we can also like rent it or use it from somebody else, if that just like works in the sense of sharing, or just because you use it only from time to time. And there would not be a point in owning an apartment if you travel the world full time. But that also makes the whole thing a lot more difficult again, because if I would travel the world, I would not own these like maybe, I don't know, maybe 200, 500 things that are part of my household that I need just because I need to cook food, I need a bed to sleep, I need a way to store all my things. And so I do have a lot of items just because I have an apartment, just because I'm not traveling full time. And people that are like traveling full time do not have these items just because they are renting it every day from somebody else. And usually, of course, you as a person are more than just a minimalist. If you are a parent, if you are an artist, if you are a vegan living person, if you are anything else than just being a minimalist, these things come with stuff a lot of times. As a parent, for example, I of course own a lot of things for my kid. I of course just have to have a little more stuff. I really don't believe in that you have to have a ton of stuff for your kids. That's not true, but you have to have some extra items. For example, my wallet. My wallet is a lot thicker all the time just because I have like 5 cards of my son. So I do not even have the possibility to be as minimal as other people because I am a mom. And also a lot of people need like medical items. If it's medicine, if it's like devices to help them moving, if it's like anything you need just to be healthy. And that is also most of the time not something that you can decide on. If you have a pet, for example, you need more things. If you have a company of some kind, you need more things. There are a lot of things, or almost everything you are, apart from being a minimalist, comes with things. And usually you are a different person from other people, so you own different things. The only problem is that this number makes it easy to compare. It seems like it's so easy to just compare. And then it also seems like you are a better minimalist if you own less things. And maybe in another world, it seems like you are a more wealthy, more successful person if you own more things. But that number is just not something you can base like the success or the being a better or worse minimalist on. So I think counting is very, very interesting, and I'm really tempted to do a video where I count everything I own. But again, here we have a problem because I own my things that I can decide upon. And then in this household, we have a lot of things that I share with my boyfriend and my son. And it's not mine to decide if we're keeping these things. So there are a lot of things that I would maybe not keep, and there are things that I would keep and my boyfriend would not keep. And so if I would make a video about everything I own, I think I would only make it about my personal belongings. So I would count everything that belongs to me, that I can decide upon and that are like valuable to me. Because everything like my bed and my dresser and my kitchen things, these are nice to have, but they are not valuable. I would leave them here in a second if I wanted to go somewhere else. I really don't care like if it's that item or if it's another exchangeable one of these items. So of course these are my items and I choose to have them in my life together with the people I'm living here. And so let me know if you're interested in a video like that, and let me know if you have ever counted your items, and then I would really be interested in knowing the number. And I don't think you can only count your items if you have like less than 100. I think it's perfectly fine to count all if you're like 10,000 items if you want. It would be a little more work, but it would be interesting to know, because I think it's really hard to guess if it's 10,000 if you have that many. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!